The year was 2001. Sonic Adventure 2 had just released, and what was meant to be the grand finale of a decade-long legacy instead sparked something new. A new era for the Sonic series. An era that began with promise, but slowly became something far more, complicated. This is the Dark Age of Sonic, Part 1. So, what actually happened after Sonic Adventure 2? Well, everything changed, and I mean everything. In 2001, Sega officially stepped away from making consoles after the mixed performance of the Dreamcast, which meant Sonic was no longer tied to one singular system, which also meant for the first time, Sonic was going to be on multiple different platforms. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and on paper, that sounds like the best possible outcome. More players, more exposure, a bigger future than ever before, but in reality, this is where things start to get a little messy. Fast forward to 2003, Sonic Heroes releases, and right away you can feel something's different. This isn't Sonic Adventure 3. This isn't even really an adventure at all. Instead of building on what worked in the previous entries, Sega hit the reset button completely. You've got team-based gameplay, the tone is lighter, the story is simpler, 3 characters at once, and the cutscenes are, cartoonish, especially in comparison to Adventure 1 and Adventure 2. And let me get this out of the gate, okay? Sonic Heroes isn't a bad game. It isn't a bad game at all, in my opinion. But it does feel like the series is stepping away from something rather than refining on the formula fans really loved. And that idea of experimentation over consistency is something that defines this era moving forward. And then we hit the mid-2000s. This is where things really start to spiral, because Sega doesn't just experiment once. They start experimenting with everything. Different gameplay styles, different tones, different audiences. In 2005, Shadow the Hedgehog gets his own standalone game, and this one is very different. We're talking guns, branching story paths, multiple endings, and a much darker and edgier tone. It almost feels like Sega looked at Shadow and said, what if we made this as extreme as possible? And the result? A game that's still debated to this day. Some people appreciate how it's bold, and others see it as the moment Sonic lost his identity. And honestly, both sides have good points. And at the same time, while all this is going on, something else is happening behind the scenes. Sonic series is splitting into 2 directions. On one side, you've got the 2D games, the Sonic Advance trilogy, fast, simple, and actually pretty well received. And on the other side, you've got 3D games, bigger, riskier, but far more inconsistent. It's like Sega's trying to figure out what Sonic should be, and in real time. And then 2006 happened. Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sonic 06, this was supposed to be the game, a next-gen reboot, a return to the adventure style, a celebration of Sonic's 15th anniversary. But behind the scenes was rushed development, the team was split, deadlines were tight, and the game was launched before it was even ready. And the result? Well, let's just take a look at them. Bugs, glitches, long loading screens, broken physics, and a story that was so confusing that it was not just a disappointment, this game was a complete disaster. Because Sonic 06 didn't just fail, it changed how people saw Sonic, and from this point on, the series wasn't just inconsistent, it became a joke to a lot of people. So after something like Sonic 06, you'd expect Sega to slow down, right? Rebuild, refocus, let's go back to the basics. Yeah, no, they doubled down on experimentation instead. Sonic and the Secret Rings, motion controls, on-rails gameplay, completely different structure. And then in 2008, Sonic Unleashed. And this one is really interesting, okay? Because for the first time in years, you can see something clicking. The daytime levels, fast, fluid. Honestly, some of the best 3D Sonic gameplay yet. And in my opinion, it is the best. But then the Werehog, slower combat, stretchy arms, completely different pacing. And it's like 2 different games fighting each other. And honestly, that's what the story is like in a nutshell. And then we got 2009, Sonic and the Black Knight. And at this point, Sega's just going all in. Sonic with a sword, Knights at the Round Table, fantasy setting, and again, this one's not terrible, but it's a huge shift. Another experiment, and another attempt to figure out what works. So when you look at this time period, from 2001 to 2009, it's not just a bad era, it's a literal identity crisis. A series trying to reinvent itself over and over again. Sometimes it worked, a lot of times it didn't. But every experiment, every risk, every failure built towards something. Because believe it or not, this wasn't the end of Sonic's story. In fact, the comeback was just right around the corner. And that is the first part of the Dark Age of Sonic. To say this was a bad era really is putting it lightly, and just shows how insanely broken apart Sonic Team and Sega were at the time, especially in contrast to how they are doing as of right now in the 2020s, which I did cover in my How Sonic Frontiers Revived the Franchise video. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and till next time, I actually am a Sonic channel.